The Global Market Roundup by Kalkine Media is brought to you by Ora Banda Mining Limited. Ora Banda Mining is a uniquely positioned gold exploration and development company located in West Perth, Western Australia. Hello, I'm James Preston and thanks for tuning in to Kalkine TV. This is the Global Markets Roundup show, proudly brought to you by Ora Banda Mining. Global equity shares scaled a new peak on Tuesday, lifted by rising US and European stocks, while the dollar gained as strong earnings bolstered sentiment as investors await the Federal Reserve's plans to taper its massive stimulus. MSCI's All-Country World Index, which tracks equity performance in 50 nations, rose 0.09% after earlier surpassing the 750 mark to an all-time peak. Benchmark US indices continued their rally on Tuesday, November 2, bolstered by gains across stock segments as strong quarterly earnings of companies lifted the market sentiment. The S&P 500 was up by 0.37%, while the Dow Jones rose 0.39%, the Nasdaq Composite gained 0.34%, and the small cap Russell 2000 was up by 0.16%. Upbeat third quarter earnings kept the investors' morale high. Analysts expect the S&P 500 index's earnings to surge 40.2% on year in the third quarter, according to Refinitiv data. So far, some 320 companies listed on the index have reported their financial results. The strong results diminished worries about inflation and supply shortages. Investors now eagerly wait for the outcome of the Fed's two-day meet that remains ongoing. The bank was expected to throw more light into its tapering plans, and rate hike expectations have increased after the central banks of Canada and the UK were considering such a move by next year. Real estate, technology and basic material stocks were the top gainers on the S&P 500 on Tuesday. Energy and consumer discretionary stocks were the bottom movers, and 7 of the 11 stock sectors of the index stayed in the positive territory. And now it's time for a very short break, but stay tuned as I'll be back with UK and Aussie market updates very soon. Hi there, James Preston for Kalkine TV. Are you into gaming and virtual reality? Does AI and the endless possibilities it entails capture your interest? Or are you constantly trawling through the web to try and discover the latest updates and innovations in the tech space? Well, let us do the work for you. From the latest product launches to shocking affairs on the World Wide Web, exclusive interviews and information about the top companies like Apple and Google to brand new tech startups vying for your attention. Kalkine's TechBeat has the latest in what matters in the world of technology. Join me every single Thursday on the TechBeat, exclusive to Kalkine TV. Welcome back, it's great to have your company. I'm James Preston and you're watching the Global Markets Roundup show, brought to you by Ora Banda Mining, exclusive to Kalkine TV. European shares crept up to a record high on Tuesday as a strong outlook from hearing aid maker Demant supported healthcare stocks, although broader gains were stifled by losses in miners and the prospect of major central bank meetings. The Pan-European Stock 600 index closed by 0.1% higher, with healthcare stocks leading gains with a 1.3% rise. London equities traded in the negative region throughout the day, with the headline FTSE 100 and mid-cap indicator FTSE 250 oscillating slightly lower from the previous closing levels in the terminal trade. This is one of the rare sessions when the shares of the market cap leader AstraZeneca have gained nearly 2.5% and the leading stock index is hovering in red. A considerable plunge in the heavyweight shares of HSBC Holdings, BP, Royal Dutch Shell, British America Tobacco, Rio Tinto, Glencore, BHP Group, Anglo American and Barclays effectively counterbalanced the cumulative positive points provided by a handful of shares. The FTSE 100 traded 0.26% lower, while the FTSE 250 shed 0.19%. Japanese shares ended lower on Tuesday as investors remained on the sidelines ahead of a pivotal US Federal Reserve meeting that could reveal more about its plans to taper stimulus measures and hike rates. The Nikkei share average fell by 0.43%, a day after posting its biggest daily gain since June, following a solid election victory by Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's ruling coalition. The broader topics lost 0.64%. Chinese shares fell on Tuesday as energy, financials and real estate stocks weighed amid growing concerns about China's economic outlook. At the close, the Shanghai Composite Index was down by 1.1%. South Korean shares posted their biggest jump in nearly 3 weeks on Tuesday as chip heavyweights took cues from a record overnight Wall Street bounce, while investors cheered the government's plan to seek inclusion into MSCI's Developed Markets Index. The benchmark Kospi closed up by 1.16%, marking its sharpest daily gain since October 14. It ended 0.28% higher on Monday. And on home soil, the Aussie share market may open higher on Wednesday, tracking strong overnight cues from Wall Street, while muted iron ore prices are expected to weigh on mining stocks. According to the latest SPI futures, the ASX 200 closed 0.6% lower on Tuesday. Moving on to the commodities market, and US Treasury yields moved as the market awaited the Fed's announcement. On the other hand, the US dollar index rose 0.181%, even as the market has fully priced in a Fed taper announcement. The euro also fell by 0.22%, while the yen strengthened by 0.01%. The Australian dollar fell on Tuesday after the central bank dropped a commitment to keep yields on its April 2024 target bond at 0.1%, signalling an earlier than previously expected rise in cash rates. The Aussie dollar was 0.25% lower shortly after the Reserve Bank of Australia's monetary policy statement, well within its 2-week range. And taking a look now at liquid gold, and oil prices declined as traders appeared nervous ahead of key economic data and OPEC's meeting. Brent was down by 0.22%, while US crude fell by 0.63%. As for the yellow metal safe haven, gold prices fell as a stronger US dollar weighed on it. Spot gold was down by 0.3%, while US gold futures settled down by 0.4%. And in the world of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin rose 4.3% to $63,544 and 84 cents. Altcoin Lil Flocky has experienced the highest gains in the past 24 hours, rising over 956%. And taking a look at a few stocks in focus, AMP will divest a 19.13% stake in Resolution Life Australasia for 524 million Aussie dollars to Resolution Life Group. Domino's Pizza Enterprises stock will be on watch on Wednesday as it holds its annual general meeting as well. Alright, well that's all for now. Stay tuned to Kalkine TV for the latest market updates, business news and exclusive interviews. I'm James Preston, signing off for now.